The Girl Who Burned the Moon. Synopsis. Talia Ainsley, who is 17 years old, is done with heartbreak. She was betrayed by her father, dumped by her cheating boyfriend, and kicked out of the life she had built. Now she wants to start over with her workaholic mother in a quiet town where she plans to blend in. But fate has other ideas. As soon as Talia gets to Ridgeview Academy, she is surrounded by groups of friends who call themselves packs. The Eclipse Pack, which is mysterious and dangerously attractive, is the most powerful of these groups. Especially Kieran Redford, cold, cruel, and impossible to resist. When Talia gets a strange bite mark from a supernatural attack in the woods, everything changes: her body, her senses, and her place in a world she never knew existed. As Talia makes new friends, learns how to use her unpredictable powers, and deals with an angry Kieran who seems to be hiding a painful secret, she learns that her past and future are more complicated than she thought. But falling for Kieran could cost her everything, even her humanity. Episode 1. The cold made it hard to sit still in the car. Even with the windows up and the heater on full blast, I was freezing. I pulled my jacket closer to my body and leaned my head against the fogged-up window in my dad's BMW. I let out a sigh, feeling down about the bad stuff that's happened to me in my 17 years on this planet. My dad cleared his throat, breaking the awkward silence. "Talia," my dad said to me through the rearview mirror. "Can we talk?" "I'm sorry." I rolled my eyes and cranked up the volume on my tunes, making sure I couldn't hear a word he was saying. I'm fed up with his sorry routine. He's been trying to apologize to me for a week, but, to be honest, I'm not hearing it. I was looking forward to getting to my mum's house. Just 30 more minutes and I'll be able to smile again. My dad was making me move in with my mum because of his new wife, Fiona, whom he wasn't very nice to. She couldn't stand me because she wanted my dad all to herself. More likely, she wanted his money for herself. Then I remembered her voice, which I find so irritating. "Just wait, you. When your dad and I get married, you'll be away. You're going to move back with the person who made you." My dad did give her everything she wanted, but I didn't expect him to grant that one wish of hers. That really annoyed me. He chose her over his daughter. I know. What a dedicated, loving father. I moved in with my dad because my mum was a hard worker. She was a renowned designer who created clothing for celebrities. Her brand, Atria Looks, was a hit. Because of that, she was always on the go. She had to give up seeing her daughter every day because she paid for my tuition so that I could follow my dreams and open my own bakery. My dad disagreed with that. He reckoned I should be a surgeon, just like him. That was one of the reasons my parents are divorced. He wanted my older brother and me to live our lives the way my dad wanted. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket and woke me up. I got out my mobile. "One new text message from Brandon," it said. I let out a sigh and opened the text message. "Hey, I miss you. I hope you can forgive me. I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused you. I'm sorry. I love you." I rolled my eyes again. This time, I was on the verge of crying. Another man I loved in my life let me down. Brandon was my boyfriend. I really loved him. He had short, curly blonde hair and brown eyes. We were together for 2 years, and I always thought we would be together. I always thought we would have gotten married and had kids. But I was a bit silly to get involved with love. Look where it got me. My parents got divorced, with my dad leaving me and Brandon cheating on me with my best friend, Jenna. I felt uneasy just thinking about it. Flashback. I was on my way over to Brandon's place to have a moan about how my dad chose Fiona over me. That was the day my dad told me I was going back to live with my mum. I was angry and crying. I turned onto Brandon's street and pulled up in front of his house. There was another car there, and I knew right away that it was my best friend, Jenna's, because of the Hello Kitty sticker on the bumper. She most likely came over to tell him about me moving. I went in without knocking, like I normally do. I was heading up the stairs when I heard some moaning and grunting coming from upstairs. "Oh my gosh, Brandon! Faster," someone said, sounding worried. I heard another moan. I knew that voice. That was Jenna. At that moment, I felt like the whole world was turning against me. It felt like everyone I loved was stabbing me in the back. I really didn't get why fate chose for it all to be on the same day. I could literally hear my heart breaking. But it wasn't the time to think about that. I had to keep my chin up. I was strong. I wasn't angry, I was infuriated. The moan from Jenna's mouth sent me stomping up the stairs and barging into Brandon's room. My heart broke some more. I saw Jenna's red hair sticking out from under Brandon. Brandon looked back at me at the doorway, horrified. They both jumped to their feet. "Oh, why did you guys stop?" "It was getting to the good part," I said, my voice dripping with venom. They were trying to find their clothes, which were scattered all over the floor. I saw Jenna and threw it at her. "You might find this useful." Her face was red. "Talia, it's not what it looks like," Brandon said. I laughed and rolled my eyes, crossing my arms over my chest. "Oh yeah, let me guess." I stopped and made a big show of it. "You guys decided to get to know each other like I had been insisting all this time," I said. They both jumped a bit. Jenna was looking at the ground and she didn't say a word the whole time. Something she did a lot when she was scared. "Jenna, I'm shocked. We've been friends since the first grade," I yelled. I looked at Brandon. "And you, I loved you." I turned on my heel and stalked out of the house. Brandon kept on yelling my name, telling me to come back and saying how much he was sorry and how much he loved me. End of flashback. I was a happy, carefree, bright person who thought love was the most amazing thing in the world. I used to go to parties, hook up with my boyfriend, make new friends, and do the unthinkable. I used to love skydiving, surfing, and riding the most terrifying rides at the amusement park. Now, I'm sad, serious and a bit dull. Now, I prefer staying at home watching reruns of Pretty Little Liars, eating tubs of Ben and Jerry's strawberry ice cream, and trying to avoid my social life. Most importantly, I don't believe in falling in love. Talia. My mum yelled and ran out of the house, giving me a big hug. I almost fell from the impact. I couldn't help laughing when she smothered my face with kisses and tears streamed down her face. Her perfume hit my nose and I instantly relaxed. I let out a sigh of contentment. I just knew my mum would never betray me. She'd never give up on me. I actually smiled for the first time in days. I felt so safe in her arms. You've grown so much. I missed you. Mom, you saw me 2 weeks ago. I laughed and sighed again. I missed you, too, I said, serious. My dad cleared his throat and I looked pretty unimpressed. What did he want this time? I turned around and shot a dirty look at my dad, but he just smiled at me. I gave him a look and he just turned to smile at my mother. Serena, you look great as always, my dad said. It was true. My mother looked stunning. She's 43, but she looks like she's still in her early 30s. Her long, straight, dark brown hair was tied into a tight ponytail, and she was wearing a black dress that hugged her body really nicely. Her high cheekbones went well with her black eyes and her red lipstick made her look professional, but still nice. I looked just like her, except my hair was slightly curled at the bottom, making it look like I'd curled it with a curling iron, and my eyes were green, just like my dad's. I'd be fibbing if I said I wasn't a good-looking guy. It was in my blood, and most of my family were models. Cheers, Thomas. I've got a meeting in an hour, she moaned, looking at her watch. I'm really sorry to leave Talia, who's just arrived, but I've got to go. She looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry. I really hoped I wouldn't be swamped today. I hope you don't mind, but it's going to be held in the house. I glanced at the mansion my mum called home. It was gorgeous, of course. She was worth a lot, but she didn't take it for granted. It was 2 stories high. There were 12 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, 1 huge kitchen, a dining room, a living area, a workout area, my mother's workshop, a basement, an attic, and finally a huge meeting room for when she has meetings for her job inside. I shook my head and smiled at my mum. Mum, this is your house. Chill out. I get it. She smiled at me. I saw Mabel, one of my mum's cleaners, coming outside and I went over to her and gave her a hug. She was like my aunt. She had short, curly grey hair and was quite short and stocky. She had a massive grin on her face that made her whole face light up. Aunt Mabel, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. Don't worry about me, sweetheart. How are you doing? She smiled, trying to smooth out her hair. I thought I'd make your favorite southern pot pie to cheer you up. I'm doing okay. I could probably do better. Oh, I'm really looking forward to eating that. I was salivating at the thought of her famous pot pie. She laughed at my expression. Hey Mabel, great to see you again. My dad jumped in again, interrupting my convo. He gave me a look that said it all. Talia, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about, I said, shrugging. Mom, I'll see you inside, I said, as I went into the house. My mother looked concerned. She had her hands clasped together in front of her. She started fidgeting with her thumbs and biting her lip. She did that a lot when she was really focused or nervous. I started making my way towards the front door, with Mabel following me and rubbing my back to calm me down. I was frozen in place when he said my full name, Talia Ainsley. My back was still to him and I tensed up. Mabel saw what was going on and moved away from me. She knew that when I was tense, I was angry. And it's not pretty when I'm angry, I assure you. I thought you'd get it. You're not a child anymore, Talia. My dad sounded pretty angry. He was getting fed up with me, which made me even more annoyed. I get it. You love Fiona more than me. I retched and went into the house without even looking back. I was on the verge of crying again. How much can a girl take? I was just one person, and I'd reached my limit with this nonsense. I was only 17 and I shouldn't be worrying about these things. I really wished I was normal. I wish my parents were still together, that my dad would take care of me and that my boyfriend loved me unconditionally. But I wasn't normal. I was Talia Ainsley. I was a bit off the wall. Half an hour later, my dad finally left. He tried to say goodbye, but I just ignored him. My mum left me with some Ben and Jerry's strawberry ice cream before she went to her meeting. I really miss my brother. He would have been there for me and told my dad to back off. He would have protected me. He had a way of tickling me that would make me smile again. My brother Elias was 2 years older than me and is currently in college in Montana. I missed him like crazy. He was working towards a degree in mechanical engineering. My dad wanted him to become a star baseball player, but Elias didn't listen to him. It was his life, after all. That's how I learned to stand up to my dad. Elias was my inspiration. His voice came to mind. Keep your chin up and grin. Keep your chin up and stay strong. You're a strong person. You know why? I'd smile at him, knowing what he'd say next. Because I'm your brother. We'd have a laugh and a bit of tickling until I was almost out of breath. It was getting dark, and I could see the stars in the sky. I was sitting in my massive bedroom, looking out the window at the backyard. The only thing I didn't like about this place was the forest that was a few feet away from my house. It was strange and creepy. It looked like one of those forests in those scary movies you always hear about, the ones you're told not to go into. The fog was all around the trees, and I felt a shiver run down my spine at the thought of walking into the forest. I wondered what could happen if I did. I was just about to say that when I saw something black zipping through the trees. What on earth was that? I started to panic. Was it a dog? Dogs weren't really as big as that back then. Maybe it was a bear. But bears don't move that fast, a little voice in my head kept saying. I felt the goosebumps as they always do, and my heart started going a bit faster. I closed my eyes, shook my head and looked back at the forest. There was nothing. It just looked a bit creepy, as usual. Maybe I was hallucinating, I was tired after all. I was in a bit of a daydream when I felt someone knock on my door. Come in, I called, still looking outside. The door opened slowly and my mum's head popped inside. She looked concerned and worried. She came in and obviously changed into something more comfortable. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, and she was wearing a loose white shirt and grey sweats. Honey, you all right? Yeah, I'm just a bit annoyed with Dad. I let out a sigh. You're totally right. I can't believe he married a skank. My mum spat and shivered in disgust. I can't believe he chose her over his own daughter. I was there for the whole time my mum was going on about why she divorced him. He was selfish. He wanted things to go his way. Gosh, when is he ever going to learn? My mum just kept on talking and talking until I got up and started getting my clothes out. She was watching me out of the corner of her eye and started helping me unpack. It was nice and quiet, and I was glad about that. I didn't feel like talking about my dad anymore. What's done is done. By the time I'd gone halfway, my right shoulder started aching. I flinched and started rolling it. I rubbed it, but it didn't help my burning shoulder at all. My mum saw and looked at me worried. She bit her lip. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing major. It's been happening for a week." I rubbed my shoulder, wincing. I closed my eyes and counted to 10, trying to calm myself down. "I'm probably just tired. I think you're My mum stopped mid-sentence and looked a bit scared for a moment. I looked at her curiously. She bit her lip again and looked off into the distance. "Hey!" That seemed to jolt her out of whatever she was thinking. "Gosh, what's wrong? Weird things just keep happening." "Mom, you okay?" "Yeah, it's probably because you're tired. I mean, you've been under a lot of stress. You've been through a lot," she said, a bit nervously. I looked at her suspiciously and she sighed. "Honey, you do realize I'm sorry, right? You don't deserve any of this." "Mum, it's not your fault. Trust me. I'm on the same page with you now, and I couldn't ask for anything more." I gave her a hug when she started crying. I feel like a horrible parent. I mean, my daughter's not happy. What's wrong with me? She sounded pretty upset. She wiped her tears away. I felt a bit of a pang in my chest. She thought this was her fault. "Let me make it up to you. Spa day Saturday." "Mum, it's not your fault. And I'd love to." I let out a sigh and gave her one last hug. She looked excited, so I smiled. I really missed these moments with my mom. The times when we were just the two of us, like when we were shopping, unwinding, getting our nails done or just chatting. She always had a way of cheering me up. "That'll stop your shoulder hurting," she said, with a wink. "And you look terrible," she said, her face scrunching up. "And you stink too. You really need to take a bath." "Thanks, Mum. I love you too," I said sarcastically. "Anyway, what did Dad say to you?" "He didn't say anything. He was a chicken," my mum said, rolling her eyes. "I did most of the talking. I told him you needed space. I also said some violent things, but you don't need to hear those things," she said, proud of her team. She didn't like it when someone messed with her or her kids. When she gets mad, she gets mad. Just to be clear, don't get on my mum's bad side. "Hey, how are things with you and Brandon?" I got a bit overwhelmed. I reached breaking point. It was really hard not to cry. My heart was aching some more. My mum looked at me curiously while she held my hand. She looked like she was feeling sorry for me. She probably thought I only missed him. I have to admit, I do miss him and I hate myself for that. He cheated on me, I said, sobbing. My mum gasped and gave me a big hug. With Jenna. What? She said, sounding pretty annoyed. She looked like she was about to kill someone. Honestly, if I see those two, I'm going to. Mom, no way. They're nothing to me anymore. Since I'm here, I'm going to leave the past behind and start fresh. I jumped in, putting on a bit of a smile. I'm going to hop in the shower, I've got a bit of a stench. I said, making the last two words really clear. She laughed and I smiled. I loved my mum's laugh. It made me happy to know I made her happy. Do you have any Epsom salt? My shoulder really hurts. I started rubbing my shoulder again, wincing as the pain intensified. Yeah, it's in your bathroom drawer. Okay, thanks. I started walking to the bathroom. Good night, Mum. I love you. Thanks for everything. I could tell she was smiling even if I wasn't looking at her. I could tell she was happy. Good night, Talia. No problem, sweetheart. She said softly. Oh, by the way, you're starting school in 2 days. Great, I thought. Now, here's where it gets a bit tricky. Hi, I'm Kieran Redford, said a gorgeous girl as I was entering the school. I was frozen to the spot and looked at her cautiously. I wasn't expecting to meet anyone this quickly and I was actually hoping I wouldn't meet anyone at all today. I'm just so unlucky. Lila had clear blue eyes and long, dark hair that reached up to her belly button. Her fringe was cut to the side and she had a gorgeous smile. She was also tall and wore a black leather jacket. Her olive skin was glowing in the sun. I thought for a second that she might have just come from a photo shoot, but I quickly shook the thought away and gave her a little smile. Welcome to Ridgeview Academy, home of the eagle, she said, smiling, and held out her hand to shake. Hi, I'm Talia Ainsley, I said, shaking her hand. I smiled gently at her. But just call me Talia. Great. Sorry if the welcome was a bit creepy, she said shyly. I'm on the welcoming committee here at the school. As it's a small town, not many people enroll here. Obviously, since the welcome was terrible, this is my first time. Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. I laughed along with her. We went into the school and, just like in the movies, everyone was in their little cliques. The jocks and cheerleaders were near their lockers, the nerds were sitting at the stairs getting bothered by the bullies, the scary students were leaning against the wall trying to look innocent, the sluts were looking at the mirrors in their lockers. Well, you get the idea. The school was pretty small, and the hallways were always packed. It was pretty old too. The lockers were a bit rusty, the red paint was faded, and the sign at the school entrance was missing the V, so it read, Ridgeview Academy. It was a public school. I begged my mum for about an hour yesterday to enroll me here because I didn't want to go to a rich, snobby, stuck-up school. I've got your schedule and school packet, Lila said. She gave me my stuff. I had a look around. I started to panic. I'm going to be on my own and I don't know what's going to happen to me. I thought to myself. Lila must have seen the look of horror on my face because she said, "Oh, don't worry. You'll get used to it." Also, I'll be working with you today. It's just part and parcel of the job. She gave me a wink. I opened the packet. So, what was your first period like? Lila asked, looking over my shoulder at my schedule. AP Calculus. Oh, that's A218 with Mr. Brooks. He's pretty cool, but he does give us tons of homework. What else do you have? Second period's World Geography, third period's Gym, fourth period's Literature and / or Drama class, and fifth period's AP Chemistry, I replied. I made a face. I've got gym for third period. Hey, I've got you covered for everything but first and fifth. Hey, looks like we're on the same team. Oh, wait, I've gotta run. She said, looking a bit panicky. I completely forgot I had to do something. If I'm not back by the time the first bell rings, I'm sorry. But you're a smart girl, you'll figure it out, she called out to me while speed walking down the hallway. Great, I thought, I'm all alone now. I ignored all the stares I was getting. I put on a bit of a smile. I'll give them something to look at least. I found my locker and opened it. It was actually pretty clean, I was lucky. I let out a sigh as I stowed all the notebooks my mum had told me to bring into my locker. I begged her to leave it at home since it was my first day and I didn't really need to bring so much stuff. She just gave me a quick telling off and said, it's better to be prepared than to wait until the last minute. Then, someone leaned casually against the locker next to mine. I looked up and saw a guy with curly blonde hair and chocolate brown eyes. He had a nice build. You could tell because the dark gray shirt he was wearing showed off his nice body. I would have been swooning over him, but he had a smirk on his face. I'm not keen on arrogant guys. Hey, sweetheart. What do you say we get out of here and do something more entertaining? He asked and added a wink. Sorry, my parents told me to stay away from strangers, I said, almost smiling when he looked shocked for a moment. He wasn't used to being turned down, obviously. I gave myself a little smile. But how are you going to make new friends if you don't talk to people you don't know? He gave another smirk. I was already ready to give this guy a good slap. Did my forehead read, I'm easy? I don't think so. I'm Luca. Luca Carson. And you look familiar. He said. Oh man, here we go with the pickup lines. Great. Yeah, I guess I look like the girl you've been waiting for, or maybe even your next girlfriend. I've heard that a lot before. He looked shocked again, before smirking at me once more. Darling, you could fall off a building or out of a tree, but the best way to fall is to fall in love with me, I interrupted him, and looked up to see him shocked. I laughed and scrunched up my nose. Just give it up, Romeo. You're lame and boring. Romeo's a wuss and I'm not boring, he said, faking hurt. Well, he's got more manness than you'll ever have. He laughed. Chick, you're good, he said, and held out his hand so I could give him a round of applause. You know what? You're my new best friend. I'm really keen to find a great woman. All the girls here are too easy. He put his arm around my shoulder in a friendly way and we started walking down the hall. I'm going to show you off to my mates. But seriously, what's your name? Wow, Luca. You're so bipolar. I mean, first you hit on me and then you're suddenly excited that I rejected you, I laughed. I'm Talia. I said, Talia Ainsley, in a husky voice, just like he had when he introduced himself earlier, and he laughed. Do you have a band-aid? He said something in my ear. Why? I asked, pausing dramatically. Let me guess, you scraped your knee falling for me. We both laughed out loud and I gave him a playful shove. Wow, you're really good at this. At last, we got to his group of friends. I was gobsmacked. How many good-looking people are in this school? This school is full of people who look like gods or goddesses. Hey guys, this is Talia Ainsley. Just call her Talia. You know, like Elias Ainsley's sister. They nodded, like they knew what was going on. I was surprised they knew my brother. She's a total badass. She turned me down. Everyone laughed when he pretended to cry. I'm Damien, the guy with the brown frohawk and grey eyes said. He had his hands around a pretty girl's waist. Obviously, that was his girlfriend. He's a real badass, just like your brother. He asked. I nodded and smiled, feeling pretty proud of my brother. The girl Damien was holding had green eyes and blonde, wavy hair that went past her shoulders. She piped up. I'm Brielle Carson. That twin sister, she said, nodding towards Luca. She looked at her twin with a look of disgust on her face. Luca stuck his tongue out at her. I'm Avery, the guy with the dirty blonde hair said, shaking my hand. He looked a bit uneasy. He wasn't the social type, was he? And I'm Roman, the last guy said. He had short black hair that was spiked up. From the way he looked, I could tell that lots of girls were into him. He smiled at me and shook my hand. The bell went and I said goodbye, not wanting to be late for my first class. That would make me look bad for the rest of the year. We had 5 minutes to get to class before the late bell sounded. I hurried up the stairs to the A section of the building. I strolled down the hallway, keeping my eyes peeled for class 218. I was getting impatient. Oh no, I'm going to be late for my first class on my first day, I thought. My teacher's going to think I'm one of those people who think they're badass. I rolled my eyes. Teachers were so judgmental. Oh well, it's not my fault the numbers on the board were faded and so hard to read. I was trying to work out the numbers on the classroom wall, and I bumped into someone. I took a step back when I felt it, but luckily, I caught myself before I fell. Where our skin touched, it tingled, and I couldn't help but rub it. Oops, sorry, I said, feeling a bit nervous. Would this person have killed me? To be honest, I was a bit intimidated by the school from the start, mainly because there were so many attractive people and the atmosphere felt a bit off. I looked up at a tall guy who looked about my age and had a nice build. He had black hair and blue eyes. He was a total hunk. I'd probably have been a goner for him if he hadn't had that look on his face. We looked at each other, and everything just stopped for a second. It felt like we were the only two in the hallway. My heart was in my mouth and I couldn't breathe. I saw something in those blue eyes. It was as if I were looking at the scene all by myself. It was a massive grey wolf, and he looked like a puppy that had just been given a treat. It was as if he'd finally found what he'd been looking for all his life. I don't know why, but it made my heart swell up. The scene disappeared, and I closed my eyes. I felt dizzy and stupid. I was hallucinating again. I opened my eyes again when I got my strength back. His face softened a bit, but then he looked a bit grumpy. "Watch where you're going, woman. Are you blind or something?" He said something pretty harsh and then just walked off, but he bumped my shoulder really hard, and I fell to the ground. I grabbed my shoulder in pain. It was bad enough that it was hurting already. Everyone started laughing at me and I felt the blood rush to my cheeks. I watched the mysterious guy's back retreating, and for some reason, I felt like my heart broke in two. What on earth? I thought. What's happening? And what on earth is that guy's backside? I smiled a little. He had a great B*T, no doubt about it. I shook my head to get rid of those nasty thoughts. He wasn't having a great morning, but he shouldn't have taken out his anger on me. I didn't do anything to him. Why did I feel like my heart broke in two? I didn't know him. I certainly didn't love him. I don't believe in falling in love. It was a bit overrated, to be honest. I started to feel angry and heard a deep growl. It wasn't until then that I realized it came from me. What on earth? Did I just growl? This school just doesn't feel right. I could feel it in the atmosphere. I felt like there were a lot of things I was meant to find out. But how can I find it if I don't even know what I'm looking for? And why did I feel like I didn't know myself anymore? I felt like I was stronger, but my temper was on the edge. I've never lost my temper that quickly before. I was curious about the reason for this change of mood. Oh yeah, I wasn't myself. I'm Talia Ainsley. I was a bit off the wall. The people were still staring at me, and for a moment, I felt embarrassed. Keep your chin up and grin. Keep your chin up and stay strong. You're strong, I heard my brother say. So, I got up, grabbed my things, and walked out with my head held high, feeling strong. Hey, just wanted to let you know that I've got a couple of things to sort out before I can get back to you. I did a little victory dance in my head when I found classroom A218. Yeah, I made it just in time. I thought I was just about to get there as the late bell went. The class was full of students, with a few chairs empty. Some of the students were lost in thought, while the others looked a bit bored. When I walked over to Mr. Brooks' desk, everyone looked up, and a bunch of people started staring at me. Mr. Brooks was pretty young. I'd say he was about 25. He was pretty fit, but I was too young for him. And let's not forget, he was my teacher. I felt pretty grossed out by the idea of a teacher kissing a student. He had light brown hair that was cut short and hazel eyes. He had a perfect face and a great body. A little voice in my head was like, please don't tell me the teachers here are hot, too. I don't think I could handle all that pressure. I got up close to his little office at the back of the room, and he was sitting with his feet up on the dark wooden desk. He was looking at his phone and tapping on the screen. Was he texting? I was surprised to find he looked pretty relaxed. The teachers at my old school never looked this relaxed and carefree. I looked at Mr. Brooks, but he hadn't spotted me yet. He was still texting on his iPhone. I cleared my throat and he looked up slowly. He smiled and it looked like he got it. "You must be the new student," he said. "Talia, right? Just call me Talia," I said, smiling and nodding. "Right, class, this is our new student, Talia," Mr. Brooks said to the class. I turned around and gave a little wave to the class. Some students smiled, while some guys checked me out. "Ew," I thought. "You can sit over there," Mr. Brooks pointed at a desk near the windows. "We're just waiting for some students." I sat down in my assigned seat and let out a sigh. I closed my eyes for a bit to regain control of myself. "Hey Talia, keep it together. We'll get through this. You're doing really well so far." I remember thinking to myself that I was strong. "Talia, I didn't know I had this class with you." I heard a voice I recognized say. I looked to my right and saw Brielle sitting next to me. She had a massive grin, all lopsided and toothy. "Hey Brielle," I said, smiling. 5 minutes have already gone by and we still haven't started class. So, who exactly are we waiting for?" I asked Brielle. She gave a little roll of her eyes at the stupid name, the Eclipse Pack. I raised my eyebrow, confused, and she sighed. "The 4 boys who are always fashionably late. It's not the whole group, but you get what I mean." I nodded and she carried on. "Anyway, they really hold us back. I want to get into a good college, but with them being late and all, my lessons are cut short. Why don't you just bring it up to the office? They get no credit for being late all the time, right?" She sighed again. "Unfortunately, no matter what we do, it doesn't really matter. They're the richest group in the school. The leader's dad set up this school and pays for everything." The door to the classroom swung open and the 4 lads strode in one by one. And, of course, they were all stunning. I saw that one of them was the mystery guy who shoved me down this morning. I shot a quick look down at my lap, trying to look like I wasn't paying any attention. "Oh, speaking of the angels," Brielle said sarcastically, but loud enough for the boys to hear. "They finally showed up." One of the boys shot her a smirk. "Darling, I know you missed me, but you don't have to share your excitement with the whole world." He had black hair that went well with his creamy skin tone, and his grey eyes had a mysterious quality about them. His white button-down shirt was rolled up to his elbows, and his black, straight-leg jeans made it clear that he knew how to dress himself well. Brielle gave a little snort and crossed her arms over her chest. "You wish, Beck. It's Beckett, babe. Only my mates call me Beck." Brielle rolled her eyes and snorted. "ABS, Beck's jealous because he saw you kissing Damien this morning," said another guy. He had a bit of a scruffy look going on, with his hair a bit on the long side and his eyes brown. Beckett's mate's comeback had the class in stitches. I saw Brielle's face go red and she quickly looked sad before she gave Beckett a smirk, who was clearly not happy. "I'll get Brielle to run through that with us." I was a curious girl, and I loved a good gossip. "Shut up, Cruz," Beckett said in a low voice to his friend, who I thought was called Cruz. "Class, "Calm down," Mr. Brooks told the class, but you could still hear the joke in his voice. "Where are your passes, guys? I assume you have a good reason for being late, Mr. Redford." The guy who shoved me down this morning just shook his head and gave me a smirk. "Mr. Brooks, as you know, I'm not the responsible one." "Oh, Kieran. When are you ever going to learn that being a leader, especially for this group, requires responsibility?" "Especially for this group?" I asked myself, wondering about it. "So his name is Kieran, right? Wait, what? I shouldn't think like that." I shook the thought off before looking back at the group of boys. I was looking at Kieran. He was so cute, he had a nice lean body that could be number one on any slut's list. If you get what I'm saying. His jet black hair was styled messily, and I couldn't stop myself from running my hands through it. His deep blue eyes had a story behind them and I just wanted to stare at them until I figured out what they were trying to say. Kieran saw me staring at him. Oops, I didn't realize I was staring at him. What on earth is wrong with me today? He looked a bit uncomfortable, but then he quickly wiped that look off his face with a smirk. "Like what you see?" he asked. I gave him a playful smile and said, "If I liked trash, then maybe." He looked a bit shocked, and the whole class went silent. I couldn't stand arrogant, selfish people. Everyone looked at me. Then, out of the blue, Beckett and Cruz appeared right in front of me. "So, you're the new girl that Lila was talking about yesterday then?" Beckett said. "Nice to meet you. I'm Beckett, but just call me Beck." He gave me the handshake and I returned it. Brielle just laughed. I guess it was because he told me to use his nickname. "Honey, no need to feel jealous," Beck said, looking over his shoulder at Brielle. "I'm Cruz," the other boy told me. Cruz smiled at me and shook my hand. It was clear they weren't taking their good looks for granted and they weren't the type to constantly flirt with girls like their life depended on it. "I'm Talia, but just call me Tali." "It's great to meet you," I said, smiling. "Right, let's get this class started," Mr. Brooks said, getting the students to join in. I watched as Beck, Cruz, and Kieran sat down. One guy stayed behind and had a quiet chat with Mr. Brooks. He was a good-looking guy. I'm assuming he's the most responsible one here. The guy strolled over to his seat and saw me looking at him. So he smiled and winked at me before sitting next to Kieran. I looked down at my lap and felt the blood slowly start to rush to my cheeks. Here's the story as Kieran saw it. "So, Beck, Cruz, Knox and I thought we'd be late for Brooks' class again. It's not like he'd care. He was a pretty relaxed teacher, and he knew we had some work to get through before the class. I've also got the highest grade in the class. Even if I was the star player on the football team and had a lot of time to socialize, I still found time to hit the books. But today, we didn't have any business to take care of. But we didn't feel like going to class just yet either. So we were chatting to Beck while we were leaning against the lockers, and he was telling us about his mate Brielle. I can't believe she let that guy touch her and kiss her, he kept saying, running his hands through his hair furiously. Brielle and Beck's relationship was a bit of a mess, to be honest. You'd have to ask them themselves to get the full story. On the topic of relationships, I was thinking about that girl I bumped into this morning. I remembered the tingling feeling I got when we touched. She smelled good too. I'm already missing her scent. There was the usual strawberry smell, but there was something else, too, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. She was stunning too. She had a great body, too. Her eyes were a deep green and I'd do anything to look into them again. But when I smelled a hint of Luca Carson on her, I was angry. That's why I was a bit short with her this morning. But I ended up regretting it. I felt for her, and felt embarrassed for her as I walked away while she was lying on the ground. She was my mate, I knew that for sure. But I couldn't love her. I knew my dad would get angry because she was human. I knew that my reputation as an alpha would be ruined. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't fall off the ladder. I couldn't bring myself to go downhill after putting so much effort into climbing. Hey, Kieran. Cruz waved in front of me, cutting me off as I was thinking. Kieran, what's up with the quiet vibe? Are you okay, mate? Yeah, I groaned. Let's just get to class. They all nodded in agreement. When we opened the door to Mr. Brooks' class, I could smell her. Her scent was so strong. I was really tempted to try it. I really needed her touch. I was dying to run my fingers through her soft, dark hair. I really wanted to look into her green eyes. I was really missing her. No, I had a bit of a think about it. So instead, I took a big whiff of her scent. Mr. Brooks stood up, and I tried to look away from the class. I tried to avoid eye contact before I fell for those green eyes again. Her scent was already driving me insane and I could hear my wolf howling inside of me. It was obvious that he was going crazy as well. Hey, just to let you know, my wolf was growling at me. Go to mate. No, I lost it. Oh, speaking of the angels, I heard Brielle say. They finally showed up. I couldn't help but roll my eyes as she and Beck started bickering again. But I ignored it, listening to whatever Mr. Brooks had to say. I gave him a little smirk, wondering what he was going to say this time. Where are your passes, guys? I assume you have a good reason for being late, Mr. Redford. Mr. Brooks asked. Obviously, he asked me because I was alpha of the Eclipse Pack. I was the leader, so I was supposed to take care of everything. Oh well, I was only in high school at the time. I'll let Knox take care of it again. He was the most responsible one. I shook my head and gave him a smirk. Mr. Brooks, as you know, I'm not the responsible one. Oh, Kieran. When are you ever going to learn that being a leader, especially for this group, requires responsibility? He asked, and I rolled my eyes again. I felt like someone was staring at me, so I slowly turned my head and saw my mate looking at me. For some strange reason, I found that comforting. She was stunning, I thought. But I'm not weak, and I wasn't going to let one girl mess that up. So, I put on my signature smirk, the one that made the girls go crazy for me. Like what you see? I asked. She gave me a smirk back. If I liked trash, then maybe. I was pretty shocked by her response, and everyone in the class went quiet, looking at her. No one ever stood up to me. To Kieran Redford. I was annoyed at the fact that she answered me back, but on the other hand, I was also proud that she was strong. Just as I was about to hit her with another comeback, Beck and Cruz ran up to her. "So, you're the new girl that Lila was talking about yesterday, then?" Beckett said. "Nice to meet you. I'm Beckett, but just call me Beck." He stuck out his hand and she shook it. I was a bit jealous that he was touching her. He could feel her smooth skin. "I'm not the one holding her hand right now." My wolf started growling, but I told it to be quiet. Brielle scoffed, and I rolled my eyes at her. "No need to feel jealous, love," Beck said, looking over his shoulder at Brielle. "And I'm Cruz," Cruz said, smiling at my friend and shaking her hand. "I'm Talia, but just call me Talia." "It's nice to meet you guys," she said sincerely and smiled genuinely. She had a smile that took my breath away, and I was again feeling jealous that she didn't smile at me. So, Talia was her name, right? I thought to myself. That's a really cute name. I quickly shook those thoughts away. "Right, let's get this class started," Mr. Brooks said, and I groaned. Beck, Cruz, and I sat down while Knox chatted to Mr. Brooks. He was chatting to him about how tardy we were. Talia was watching him, curiously. Knox was on his way back to his seat when I saw him smiling at my colleague and then wink at her. That was something he did a lot when he saw something he liked. Then, I turned to Talia, but she was looking down and blushing. She smiled. What on earth? I could feel the rage building up inside me, and I could feel my wolf itching to come out. It was scratching at my skin. I was already in the zone, and Knox gave me a curious look before sitting down next to me. But I just took a few deep breaths and told my wolf to calm down. I accidentally smacked Knox across the head, and he gave me a death glare. "What, Kieran?" He made a low, angry noise. He was beta of the pack, but I was still alpha. I was still in control. "Don't look at her like that again," I said between clenched teeth. My hands were shaking under the desk. Then I felt my pack's eyes on me. Knox looked at me like he was trying to figure something out. "What war?" I asked, trying to keep my cool. "Is she your partner?" Knox asked, but quietly so the humans couldn't hear. I felt like saying yes. To claim her as mine. But I told myself I couldn't look weak. "No," I said firmly. "She's not my mate." "What on earth are you thinking?" "Sorry," he said sarcastically. For the rest of the class, I kept looking over at Talia. She was really focused on her notes. She had a little crease between her eyebrows as she concentrated. I thought it was pretty cute. I found a lot of things about her that I already loved. Like the way she bit the end of her pencil when she drifted off into space, the way she swung her legs under her desk, and the way her smile lit up her whole face when Brielle talked to her. I quickly shook those thoughts away. I couldn't love her. I just couldn't. I could get over her. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, though. The only question is, can I really do it? Here's Talia's take on it. "I think I can die happy now 'cause I've just seen a piece of heaven," Luca said, grinning at me. I almost choked on my stale French fry. "Are you talking about French fries?" I asked him as if he were crazy, but I was laughing on the inside. Gah! Can't you just let me have fun for once? That's already 20 pickup lines and they usually work for most girls. Why are you so good at this? He asked, sounding a bit annoyed, but then quickly wiped that off with a smirk. Oh no, here we go again. I wonder what else you're good at, he said, arching his eyebrow suggestively. I threw him one of my French fries, and it landed on his grey shirt, leaving a bit of oil behind. Wow, this is a new shirt. Don't you have a washing machine? I asked, laughing. Darling, expensive stuff doesn't matter. All I want is you, he said, pouting. I couldn't stop laughing. I was really enjoying myself with Luca and the Moonfire Pack. You got it, the Moonfire Pack. Luca, Brielle, Damien, Avery, and Roman made it up. I guess this school runs in packs, not groups or cliques. I asked Luca why they called themselves a pack, but he just laughed at me like I was crazy. So, there I was, having lunch with them. I was supposed to have a bite to eat with Lila, but I couldn't find her. As I had Luca in the previous class, I followed him to lunch. The cafeteria was just like any school cafeteria on a normal day. It was noisy and the food was pretty gross. Surprisingly, the cafeteria was clean. The tables didn't even have gum underneath them. I was already getting used to the Moonfire Pack. They were easy to get along with. Yet, Luca was always trying to flirt with me, but I knew he was just messing around. Brielle and Damien were in their own world, but I totally got it. They were head over heels. I felt a bit of a pang when I thought about my previous love life. But I just pushed those thoughts to the side. Avery isn't quite sold on me yet. He ate his lunch quietly and occasionally looked at me. It was as if he was trying to figure me out. Roman was busy reading a book. I found out he loved reading and he wanted to be an author one day. Talia, did I ever tell you that you look like a light switch? You're... Luca started. Luca, pipe down. She's not interested and it's not working, Roman interrupted. I laughed at Luca and immediately stopped myself when I saw the whole Eclipse Pack standing by our table with their lunches. Beck looked at Brielle with a pained expression. Cruz looked like he was going to jump if anyone made a move. Kieran's mouth was set in a thin line. There was one girl there that I didn't recognize. She had white blonde hair that was sleek and perfect. Her eyes were sapphire blue and her smile was perfect. I looked at her in awe. She was stunning. Like Lila, they were both smiling. I had a good look at the Eclipse Pack. I could feel the tension in the air. It's fair to say the two packs weren't exactly best mates. Talia, do you want to join us? Lila asked, smiling. Hey, this is Marin, she said, pointing to the girl next to her. You've met all the boys already, right? Not me. I'm Knox, he cut in. He had a deep voice, but it was smooth. I shook his hand and said hi. I saw Kieran looking uncomfortable out of the corner of my eye, shifting from one foot to the other. Knox smiled at me. So, what do you say, would you like to join us for lunch? I don't want some new girl sitting with us, Kieran said angrily. His deep voice had me shivering. For all we know, she could be insane. Just look at her. She's got ketchup at the corner of her mouth and she doesn't even realize. I took my napkin and wiped it across my mouth in one quick move. I looked a bit annoyed when I realized I had ketchup on my face. I looked down at my lap and saw that my face was as red as a tomato. I don't know why, but his words really hit home. What, Kieran? Lila gave Kieran a smack on the head. He flinched and kept glaring at me. Lila looked at me and smiled. Sorry about that. My brother's a bit of a stupid, sorry about that. Something seems to be up his panties today. Roman and Avery were having a bit of a laugh, while Damien, Brielle, and Luca were giving Kieran a hard time. Don't ever talk like that to her again, Luca said in a low, threatening voice. His growl was seriously scary. My heart was racing just hearing it. You hardly know her and you're defending her. Kieran was a bit suspicious and didn't believe it. She'd go for a guy like you. You're worthless. I looked over to my left and saw Luca looking down. He looked pretty beaten up. Oh no. No one talks to my friends like that, not one person. Who did this Kieran guy think he was? I felt a growl rise up from my chest and everyone looked over at me. I didn't care, I was angry. Who do you think you are? I asked, standing up and facing Kieran. The whole cafeteria went quiet. I was really angry, the feeling spread through my whole body and reached my fingertips. You think you're all high and mighty, hey? Is it just because your dad found this school and pays for everything? You think you're a king who could just humiliate everyone? I shouted. He gave me a hard stare. I was face to face with him. Let me tell you. You're the king, I said, pretending to sound defeated. Everyone started whispering when I saw the corners of his mouth twitch up. Yeah, that's right. The king of dumbasses. I shot him a smirk and strolled back to my table. You're going to regret that, Kieran said, but I ignored him. I could see the rage in his eyes. But I ignored him and focused on the grins plastered on the Moonfire Pack's faces. I sat next to Luca, and he put his arm around me. Did I ever tell you that you're one badass chick? Luca said something to me in a quiet voice and I laughed. Oh, about 100 times, babe. But I love hearing it over and over again. Then Kieran yanked Luca's arm off my shoulder. He shot a dirty look at Luca while a growl escaped from his lips. His hands were shaking like a leaf and his blue eyes were changing color. It was blue 1 second and then yellow the next. I looked at him, pretty shocked. That was definitely not normal. But I quickly shook those thoughts away and looked at Kieran, ready to smack him in the face this time around. Don't touch her like that, ever again, Kieran said in a low, threatening voice. Everyone started whispering and there were gasps all over the place. The two packs looked pretty shocked. But before anyone could say anything, Kieran rushed out of the cafeteria, pushing anyone who got in his way. I sat there, not saying a word. I was ready to throw something, anything. Kieran Redford wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He was selfish, self-centered, and a bit of a player. He was out with Kira, the head cheerleader, all day. And they almost had a thing in Mr. Steele's class, too. I had them for every class, and I felt really awkward every time I saw them. He had a girlfriend, and he shouldn't have told any boy, for that matter, to stay away. I thought it was really unfair of him to be such a jerk to me. I felt pretty bad for wanting him to be nice to me. Most importantly, I couldn't stand the way he affected me. He just hurt me. Just to let you know, I've got a few more things to add. Aunt Mabel, I'm home. I yelled when I opened the door to my house. My mum's off on a business trip this morning, and I'm a bit disappointed that she's already left just as I got in. But I knew this was bound to happen at some point. Oh, welcome home, dear, Aunt Mabel said as she appeared at the top of the stairs, smiling down at me. I rustled up some cornbread for your afternoon snack. How was your first day? I thought about today's events and one word came to mind. Eventful, I replied. My back started to hurt and I winced. As it happens, the pain in my shoulder has spread to my back as well. Aunt Mabel, I'd really love to try your cornbread, but my back's been playing up. Do we have more Epsom salt? Gosh, dear. I'm 53 and you've had back pain before, right? She laughed. I'll get you some. It's in the shed at the back of the house. She started turning away from her previous work and started heading downstairs. Hang on, Aunt Mabel. I could get it, I said, and she froze on one of the steps. You sure about that? She said, her voice laced with concern. Yeah, it's been a while since I was out there. I want to see if it's changed. I smiled, and her face softened. Okay, just be careful. Don't go out into the woods, she said sternly. I laughed. That was something she used to say a lot when I was little. She didn't have to remind me. Those woods were pretty scary. I opened the door that led to the backyard. The air was so cold it made me shiver. I felt a bit shaky, and I rubbed my arms to try and warm them up. I found myself staring at the woods. It always made me wonder what was hidden in the depths of the trees and the fog. I always thought it was a bit weird that my mum never put up a fence to stop any wild animals from coming onto our property. Then, out of nowhere, I saw something blurry fly through the trees and I totally freaked out. But, true to my nature, I froze. That was something I did a lot when something creepy happened when I was on my own. But when I looked at the creepy woods again, there was nothing. It's just the same fog and strange darkness. I was probably hallucinating again. I laughed at myself for being so stupid and carried on walking to the shed. I was just about to unlock the shed door when I heard a growl and something running through the trees again. I dropped the key and turned around. What on earth was that? I thought. I looked around nervously, hoping that I was just imagining things again. But, of course, bad luck was attracted to me. My heart started pounding when a huge grey wolf came out of the trees. But it was too big to be a wolf and a little too small to be a bear. And it certainly didn't look like a bear. I know this might sound strange, but the thing looked a lot like a werewolf. I was pretty scared when the grey wolf got closer and closer to me. It was taking it slow, as if it was trying not to scare me. I thought, oh no, I'm too late, and started running towards my house. The wolf let out a howl, and I heard it running towards me. I shouted for help, but no one could have heard me. Not even Aunt Mabel. She was probably washing clothes and humming some old tune, not even realizing that I was going to die soon. I turned to check if the wolf was getting closer. Didn't I learn from scary movies never to look back? I was having a bit of a rough time of it at the moment, what with tripping on a rock and falling over. I felt the tears start to stream down my face. I was pretty much ready to go. In no time at all, the wolf had me pinned to the ground. I was finding it hard to breathe because of how heavy it was. I was tiny compared to this beast. I let out a yell when I felt its teeth sink into my shoulder. The pain was absolutely unbearable and I felt like crying. Before I was engulfed by the darkness, I looked up and saw deep blue eyes staring back at me. I've definitely seen those before somewhere, I asked myself. But before I could answer that question, I was already pulled into the pitch black. I jumped up. The first thing I saw was darkness. The only sound was my heavy panting. My shirt was sticking to my sweaty back. I took in my surroundings and realized that I was only in my room. I was snug and cozy in the dark purple blankets of my bed. I got back down and relaxed. Thank God it was only just a dream, I thought. I got back up again pretty sharpish. I don't remember falling asleep in my bed last night. I remember going back to the shed to grab some Epsom salt and seeing the mythical creature that appeared right before my eyes. I quickly shook those thoughts away and laughed at myself for being stupid. This place was driving me nuts. There was probably some virus in the air. I checked the time and saw it was already 6 in the morning. School starts in about 2 hours. Aunt Mabel usually wakes me up at this time, but she hasn't come into my room yet. She probably overslept. I tried to stretch my back by putting my arms over my head, but a sharp pain shot through my right shoulder. I gasped and put my arms down. I was wondering if the mythical creature would have actually bitten me. I was wondering whether I might have caught a bug. Oh, please don't be rabies. I gasped again. Would I have been dead? I got up from my bed and switched on the lights. I ran over to my mirror and looked at myself in horror. There was a massive bite mark on my right shoulder. It was still a bit red, but it couldn't have healed this quickly. I ran my hands over the new sore, grimacing when I felt pain. Was it all just a dream? I had so many questions, but no one was around to ask them. What was that creature in my backyard? What will this bite mark do to me? Will I become sick and suffer? Will I die? Or had I already passed away? I had so many questions and it all got me in a bit of a headspace. I couldn't stop thinking about last night's episode. I was absolutely petrified. I made sure I wasn't dead, then rushed out of my room and down the stairs. I found Aunt Mabel at the front door, having a quiet chat with someone. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. If I was dead and in heaven, Aunt Mabel wouldn't have been here. I was still alive for sure. Hold on a minute, would the beast have killed Aunt Mabel as well? I got all tense and laughed at myself for being so silly. Thomas, I'm afraid I'm busy right now. Your daughter is asleep and you're drunk, Aunt Mabel said. Oh, come on, Mabel. I'm not drunk. Not at all. Ha, bit. The man's voice was slurred and he chuckled. I got really angry when I realized it was my dad's voice. I just want to talk to my daughter, that's all. She's been a bit of a stupid recently. It's about time someone showed her a thing or two. I strolled over to the door and kicked it open a bit. The smell of alcohol hit me. I felt a bit sick. My dad's hair was standing on end all over the place. His eyes were all watery and his smile was really getting on my nerves. His tie was undone and he had vomit stains on his white shirt. Talia, I missed you. Please talk to me. He took a swig of his beer. Dad, go home. I don't want to talk to you, I said crossly. Talia, what happened to you? My dad asked, his eyes welling up with tears. You've been so tough lately, he said, burping. I looked at him in disgust. Lately is the word. I called out to him, go home, Dad, to your lovely wife, and shut the door in his face, just to be mean. I closed my eyes and counted to 10, trying to calm myself down. Honey, you all right? Aunt Mabel's southern accent made me feel much more relaxed. I looked at her and smiled gently. Yeah. Let's just forget about it. Next time, I want you to call the police. She nodded, looking a bit sad. She looked at me with a cheeky grin and a bit of a smirk on her face after about 5 seconds, and then pointed her finger at my bitten shoulder. So, who was in your room last night? It looks like the young guy thought you were delicious, Han, she asked, and I looked at her in horror. Aunt Mabel gave me a wink and carried on. Don't worry, I won't tell your mum you've already lost your virginity. As long as you're careful and it's not my problem if you get pregnant, there's no problem. Did you use protection? Darlin', if you need some, I can buy you some. Lala lala, I shouted while covering my ears. My face was definitely as red as a tomato. This was a bit of a weird topic. Aunt Mabel, I'm not giving up on the big V just yet. You know I'm on the lookout for the right one. Ew, that was gross, Aunt Mabel. You're one crazy old woman. She looked at my shoulder, clearly shocked. I wanted to tell her it was a mythical creature, but I would sound like a mad woman. She'd send me to the doctor again and refuse to leave until she got an explanation. She let out a sigh and winked again. Whatever you say, love. Whatever you say, she said sarcastically. Aunt Mabel, am I dead? I asked. I was still curious about it and just had to ask. I mean, what would you do if you were in a situation and you didn't know if you were dead or alive? Aunt Mabel gave me a strange look. Are you sure I'm the one who's off their rocker? She laughed and walked away. Just to let you know, I've updated the document with the latest info. Kieran wasn't joking when he said I was going to regret everything I did to him. He's been on my case for the past 2 weeks. Whether it was chucking rubbish at my head during class, tripping me up while I was running in gym, messing with me, or spilling his drink on my homework, it was always something. He even got a bit carried away with the old school stuff, like filling my lockers with soda, which made everything really sticky, and spilling his drinks again on my lunch and even egging my car. I mean, seriously, egging my car. So childish. I learned to just ignore it and walk away. I wasn't going to let him see me as weak. I wasn't going to let him get everything his way. He'll get it back at some point in the future. Karma can be a real pain sometimes. The Moonfire Pack was a real help, and made things so much easier for me. They helped me wash the eggs off my car, clean my locker and caught me when I fell in gym. They also said I should make extra copies of my homework and eat lunch before Kieran showed up. Every time someone stood up to Kieran and told him to back off, he'd just get more aggressive. So, it was pointless. Lila even gave him a couple of smacks on the head and said sorry for him. She even had to stay away from me because Mr. Devil told her that if she hung out with me, it made things worse. But I never felt as hurt by it as I did when I saw him with other girls. After I got bitten, I felt a weird connection with him. It felt like a magnet was trying to pull me to him whenever he was around. I got the shivers if he brushed against me by accident. I also found him even more attractive, and I couldn't stop myself from running my hands through his hair or caressing his face. On the topic of being bitten, my shoulder healed quickly, leaving a small eclipse-shaped mark behind. I thought it was a bit weird, but there's no denying there was something strangely beautiful about it too. It looked like a birthmark. The mark was right where my neck and collarbone met. I was startled awake by the sound of snapping fingers. I looked up and saw Kieran smirking. One of his arms was wrapped around Naomi's waist and I really wanted to look away but I just couldn't. Every week, he had a new person, but I just kept feeling the same odd pain over and over again. I couldn't possibly be in love with him. "You're in denial," a little voice in my head teased. Luca came closer to me and I could tell he was nervous. He was a great friend and almost like a brother to me. He was keen to beat Kieran up, but I told him not to. It would just get me into more mess. The whole cafeteria went quiet. Everyone was looking at us. This is the usual routine, and I sighed when I realized how horrible I looked. My hair was a complete mess. I didn't have time to put on any makeup this morning. My clothes were stained from the Coke Kieran accidentally spilled on me earlier, and there were dark circles under my eyes because I had to do my homework twice and that caused me to stay up late at night. Before I could say anything to Kieran, he spilled all his spaghetti on my white shirt, making even more stains. The whole cafeteria burst into laughter. I just stood up and took the noodles off my shirt. I let out another sigh. "Can you help me clean up?" I said, sounding a bit tired. Brielle nodded and looked at me with a sad face. I got my bag, which had my clean clothes in it. Before we left, I looked back at Kieran. He was kissing the slut. Naomi's hands moved up and down his chest and I couldn't help but wish it were me feeling those muscles. My eyes were welling up, but I didn't dare let one tear escape. Kieran opened his eyes and saw me staring. He was still kissing her, but he was looking at me. His eyes twinkled with amusement, and then the bastard winked. I clenched and unclenched my fist. When will all this end? From Kieran's perspective, it's just stupid. I thought to myself, oh no, I'm in trouble. Why on earth did I just mark Talia? To mark her as our own and only our own, my wolf growled. Seeing Luca's arm around my colleague made me angry. But I was fuming when she called him babe. At that point, I just lost it. I didn't realize meeting your friend would make you feel so possessive. I cringed when I remembered her screaming in agony as I bit her shoulder. I didn't want to hurt her, but I had to call her my own. But I was stupid, wasn't I? I said I couldn't love her. This would make the attraction way stronger and she'd surely fall in love with me. I was on my way to her house the morning after I'd bidden her to make sure she was okay when a drunk guy stumbled out of a bush. I grimaced when the smell of alcohol hit me. "Hey you! Hey, have you met my daughter Talia?" He was slurring his words a bit. I looked at him suspiciously. "Did Talia come from him? If you do that, can you see if you can get her to have a chat with me? I'm starting to think she's been ignoring me. She's been a bit of a handful. I just had to know more. Why hasn't she been talking to you?" I blurted out. He spilled the beans to me. He told me he made her move here because he loved his new wife. He was drunk, so he made some inappropriate comments about how good his new wife was in bed. To me, he left her for a floozy. Then he told me that her boyfriend had cheated with her best friend. I felt really sorry for her. And let's not forget that she deserved a much better father figure. This guy was a real piece of work. I looked at him with a look of disgust on my face before giving him a black eye for hurting her and then walked away from him, trying to calm down. Anyway, I couldn't let her fall in love with me. I just couldn't. The only way to make that happen was to make her think I was a complete jerk. So for the past 2 weeks, I've been doing things that I've come to regret. I also used girls to take my mind off her. These girls just weren't as good as her. I tried to forget about her, but I just couldn't. "Luca, are you going to eat that?" I asked with my mouth full while pointing to his salad. I wolfed down my food when Luca gave me a weird look. "Gosh, I'm so hungry. Last week, you could barely finish a sandwich and now you're practically licking your plate clean," Luca said, pointing out the obvious. I took his salad and stuffed it in my mouth. He wouldn't eat it anyway. He said he had plenty of veg at home. I just gave a little shrug. "I've been eating way more than usual recently. Mr. Devil probably thought it was funny to make me starve all day, so I haven't eaten much in the last 3 weeks. If you're still wondering, Mr. Devil is Mr. Kieran Redford. You might be wondering why I haven't been eating much at home. Well, it's because Aunt Mabel caught the flu and I had to eat frozen food for dinner." Speaking of the devil himself, where's he? I gave another shrug, took a big swig of water. "I don't know, but I miss him already," I said sarcastically. Luca and I burst out laughing. The chair next to mine made a scraping noise as it was pulled back. I could feel someone sitting next to me. I just had to know more, so I turned my head to look at the person. I was in shock at first, but then I quickly went into horror mode. "You miss Kieran? I'll make sure to tell him that," Knox joked and smiled at me. "Knox, what are you doing here?" I hissed. "Well, hello to you, too." "Knox, what? Do you want things to get worse?" Luca asked. "I don't know about you, but I don't like seeing her get hurt. She's practically my sister." "Chill out, Carson. Kieran's pretty busy at the moment, so he won't be around for a while," Knox said. I let out a sigh of relief. And I'm not bothered by what Kieran said. He can't tell me who I talk to or who I'm interested in. "You're interested in me?" I let out a squeak. I felt the blood rushing to my cheeks. Oh, so his pickup lines work, but mine don't. "What's wrong with you, woman?" Luca exclaimed. I gave him a little nudge in the ribs. Ouch. Okay, I'll leave you two to it. Gosh. Knox laughed. So anyway, I was wondering. Maybe you'd like to go to a party with me on Saturday. She's not going, a familiar voice said from behind me. His deep voice had me shivering. It isn't very pleasant when that happens all the time. It also felt like it was out of control. Every time he was around, I found myself doing things without thinking. I didn't like it at all. I turned around and shot a dirty look at Kieran. This week, he had Jennifer. I've heard she's had a boob job. Well, it was pretty clear, wasn't it? Her shorts were so short. I had underwear that was longer than that. I looked at her with a kind of revulsion as she leaned against Kieran. Her black hair was a mess. I thought. I looked away quickly. That's why he was so busy. Honestly, it's a bit dull here. Let's get this show on the road, Jennifer moaned. Her voice was husky, and she fluttered her eyelashes. I couldn't help rolling my eyes at her ridiculousness. Yeah, Kieran. Go back to your entertainment. It's more fun than being here anyway, I said quickly, waving him off. I turned back to Knox and smiled sweetly. I'd love to go. What time? Talia, you aren't going to go, Kieran said. He let out a low growl. I gritted my teeth. When did my love life become his top priority? I'll pick you up around 7. Knox said, ignoring Kieran. Perfect, I said, smiling. She's not going. Who are you to tell her where she goes and where she doesn't go? Luca let out a growl in response. Can't you just leave her alone for a minute? She's not going, Kieran retorted. Oh, I'm definitely going. So where's this party at? I asked, smiling. At Michael's place. You know Michael, right? Knox asked. The baseball player. Bingo. Great, I've heard his parties are awesome. Talia, you're not going, are you? Kieran let out a deeper growl this time. I just gave him a look that said it all. Are you going? I asked Luca, ignoring the furious Kieran behind us. Yeah, Luca said, blushing. With Lila. Oh, that's awesome. I leaned in to whisper in his ear. I looked as he bit his lip. I've noticed that he does that a lot when he's nervous about admitting something. Do you like her? A lot, he replied. I smiled. That was so cute. Plus, they'd make a great couple. I don't want to be rude, but you're not going to bail on me, are you? Knox said, blushing. Not at all. Oh, come on, you don't want to go out with a girl like her, Kieran said. I turned around and shot him a dirty look. Kieran, the only one acting like a fool here is you, Knox said in a low voice. Kieran laughed bitterly, a playful expression spreading across his face. Oh, you think I'm pathetic? You've really got to hear her story. I'm telling you, it's a riot. Hey Talia, why don't you let him know your story? Why don't you tell everyone your story? He raised his voice so everyone in the cafeteria could hear. Everyone was silent and looked at us. Even the lunch ladies and their assistants were watching us. I looked at him, curious. What on earth was he talking about? Oh, come on, Talia. Don't act like you don't know. Stop hiding your past. How are your dad and your boyfriend? Oh, and don't forget your lovely, trustworthy best friend. How's she getting on? I was paralyzed with fear. It felt like the whole world stopped for a second. Then, it was put on rewind. All the painful memories made my heart ache and burn. To be honest, I did miss my dad. I still loved Brandon, and even if it hurts me to admit it, I missed him terribly. And let's not forget my best friend. Even if Jenna hurt me, I always remembered how much I loved our fun times together and all the traditions we had. I didn't realize I'd dropped the apple I was eating until Luca picked it up. My breathing got heavy and I felt like crying any second. Kieran, don't go messing around with her. Luca started to say. Oh, shut up, Luca. You might want to hear this about your best friend, too, Kieran snapped, emphasizing the word best. Then he started laughing. It was sarcastic and insincere. It wasn't long before Jennifer's girly laugh joined in with his. I felt like crawling into a hole and never coming out. I wanted to rot and die. Look at her. She's not even able to stand up for herself. All she could do was sit and cry. She's a bit pathetic, isn't she? Maybe that's why your dad chose his wife over you, Talia, he spat. Maybe that's also why your loving boyfriend and amazing best friend decided to sleep around behind your back. Just to let you all know, I've heard that. Isn't she pathetic? Everyone was silent. Shock suppressed all their faces. I just sat there looking at the wall at the far end of the cafeteria. For a second, I felt embarrassed, ashamed of my own life, and most of all, I felt pathetic. Kieran's words sank in, but it was quickly washed away when I heard my brother's voice in my head. You're strong, Elias reminded me. Luca stood up and went over to Kieran. Luca shot him a dirty look and kept coming closer until he was standing right in front of Kieran. I told you to leave her be. I saw Luca's eyes change from normal to yellow and back again. I heard you loud and clear, Carson. And what are you going to do about it? Kieran challenged. That's when I stood up. I felt the anger surge through my body. I looked at Luca. Luca, try to calm down, I said, but he just gave me a quick look and carried on glaring at Kieran. No, Talia. I don't like how he treated you, he said. I grabbed Luca's arm and looked him in the eye, serious. I felt a surge of strength inside of me. Luca, please calm down. He closed his eyes, and I could see his body relax. He opened his eyes again and it was back to normal. He just gave a quick nod and sat down. I turned around and faced Kieran. He looked amused, but he quickly looked away when he looked into my eyes. I looked at him, not adoringly but hatefully. I glared at him until I couldn't take it anymore. I punched him in the face. His head whipped to the left from the impact. He looked at me in shock, then touched his lip. I smiled to myself when I realized I'd just punched him in the kisser. All those boxing lessons at the gym really paid off. I clapped loudly and laughed bitterly. Wow, Kieran! You've really put me through my paces these last 3 weeks. Everything you did was a laugh, but this, I said sarcastically. I waved my hand around to emphasize this point. This one's definitely the best. Well done. And now for your prize. Oh, the prizes. What would you like? I'm thinking it's probably to egg my car again or starve me to death like a real man does. I carried on and laughed bitterly again. Oh, wait, I forgot. You're not a real man. Real men don't do that stuff. Kieran jumped when he saw the tears start to drip from my eyes. His own deep blue eyes were darkened, and he looked pained. I gave him a look that said it all. You want to know something, Kieran? You all want to know something? Maybe it would make me more pathetic. But does it really matter? After all, you all seem to be so interested in my life, I said, gesturing at all the people who had laughed at me when Kieran used to tease me. I know it sounds weird, but I miss them. I guess you're right, Kieran. I'm a bit of a mess. You're a psychic, aren't you? Talia, I didn't mean to say that. Kieran started to say. It just made me angrier. Shut up, Kieran. You meant everything. I shouted at him and he flinched again. Just stop talking and don't talk to me. Honestly, just leave me alone. I hate you, I said, my voice cracking at the end. I started to walk towards the exit of the cafeteria. Everyone was looking at me, but I ignored them all. Then someone grabbed my arm and I could feel tingling from the contact. I shot Kieran another dirty look, feeling pretty disgusted. I told you to leave me alone, didn't I? What more do you want from me? Aren't you satisfied? I laughed again, but it was a bitter laugh. Oh, wait, Mr. Redford always has to win a fight. So go for it, smack me, hit me, kick me, do whatever you want. Make my life much more pathetic. He grabbed my arm even more tightly. I wouldn't do that to you, Talia. You don't really hate me, do you? He sounded so vulnerable, and his eyes were like, please say no. But I was strong. Talia Ainsley might be pathetic, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I gave him a look that said it all. You, Kieran. I hate you, I said. He jumped back and let go of my arm. He looked shattered and his eyes were glazed over with unshed tears. I started walking away again, shaking my head. I couldn't stand his ignorance, ego, and personality. I couldn't stand his teasing, practical jokes, and all the stuff he's pulled on me. I couldn't stand his smirk, and everything irritating about him. But you want to know the funny thing? I don't hate him at all, not one bit. I just had this connection with him. I really felt down after thinking that. Talia, sorry, Kieran called out to me. He sounded pretty apologetic, too. But I just kept walking. The tears dripped down my face and onto my shirt. I laughed. I'm fed up with hearing the same 2 words, I said. Just to let you know, I've gone ahead and marked this as love. It's a 4-letter word, with 2 vowels and 2 consonants, and it's 1 syllable. I hate it. It's a 4-letter word, with 2 vowels and 2 consonants, and it's got 1 syllable. But they're both super strong words. I was sat on the windowsill in my room, looking out at the dark, spooky forest again. It felt reassuring somehow. It was 2 hours after the lunch incident, and I decided to take the day off school. My eyes were all red and puffy and I was still crying. You're probably wondering why. Well, after a bit of a debate with myself, I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't stand Kieran. But I feel like it was meant to be when I fell for a bit of a jerk. I had mixed feelings about him. On the one hand, I hated him, but on the other, I loved him. Does that make sense? I really am pathetic. I cried again, quickly wiping the tears from my face. I thought I told you that you were strong, little sis. I heard a voice behind me, and it was definitely familiar. I turned around. The person who was so close to me, but yet so far away, was now standing in my room. He's exactly the same as always. His hazel eyes twinkled in the dark room. His brown hair was swept to the side. His smile made a dimple appear on his face. Wow, he really looked like my mum. He was still gorgeous and well built. I looked at him, totally gobsmacked. Elias, I said quietly. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.